Hi everyone. Yeah, if you could make sure you're muted, that would be really helpful. So I'm Miranda from XRUK Relationship Circle. We have Claire from the Climate Justice Coalition here with us. Do you want to say hi and introduce? So Claire is, introduce yourself. Sorry.
Hi, yeah, I'm Claire. I'm the National Coordinator for the Climate Justice Coalition. Hi, everyone.
So
did you want me to
Claire is going to tell us a bit about, if you just talk to us a bit about the 12th, and then we have a chance to ask and answer some questions. So if you want to put questions in the chat as Claire is speaking, then yeah, feel free to do that.
Yeah, so hi everybody, really good to see all of you. You'll have to bear with me because I've literally just been at a rally doing some leafleting, so I had to just jump into a prep, which is quite noisy. But yeah, so I'm Claire, I'm the coordinator for the Climate Justice Coalition. Some of you might know what that is, some of you might not. Some of you might know it under the name of the COP26 Coalition, which was the group that brought together lots of different organisations, trade unions, faith groups, climate groups, in COP26 last year, and basically organised the kind of People's COP. And then there was a real feeling that so many relationships and stuff had been built during that time that they wanted to continue the coalition and build something more long lasting. So over the last year, they've been trying to figure out kind of how to do that and how to do the transition. And then were able to raise some money to employ me. So I started about a month ago. I've previously been working in kind of really hyper local community organizing. And I mention that because, and I'll talk about what's going to be happening on the 12th, but I'm really interested to have conversations about how we do long-term kind of relationship, power building, to basically strengthen this movement and how we work together, because ultimately we're not going to be able to have a dent on this crisis unless we're all working with one another. So I will tell you a little bit about the context of the upcoming action, but we also wanted to have half an eye on beyond the action, because it's very tempting to just build towards a big moment and then it will collapse. But I'm really keen that we do a bit of reflection tonight on the kind of longer term relationship with the Climate Justice Coalition and XR. So the mobilizations, we've now got, I think, over 30 mobilizations happening across the country, which is really exciting. I keep getting emails every day with a new group saying that they're going to take to the streets. And these mobilizations were called in response to the COP27 coalition, which is like the equivalent of the COP26 coalition, but in Egypt, because as many of you will know, it is very hard to do anything in Egypt because of the kind of crackdown on people's human rights and rights to protest. And so they have called on the rest of the world to take to the streets on the 12th of November to show solidarity with them and to show Egypt that the world is watching, but also to be able to hold government's feet to the fire on climate issues as we go into another COP. So we have been kind of coordinating groups over the last few months to host demonstrations across the country. I'll be leading the one in London, but we have them all over. And in a moment, I'll put our website in the chat, and there it's got a kind of list of all of the protests that will be happening and links to the Facebook group. And I'll also put my email. So if you've got any more questions after this, or you can't figure out the website or whatever, just feel free to get in touch. And I think, as well as, you know, holding government's feet to the fire, standing with Egypt and being vocal about the human rights abuses there, I think really thinking about how we see this as a moment to bring the movement together, because there's going to be people from all different parts of the movement who have all different tactics, all different ways in which they've come into the movement. But I think it's going to be a really exciting moment to build some of those relationships. And I know that XR is the kind of creative hub in the climate movement. So while we've only got 10 days, I'm super keen to hear if you've got any kind of creative ways in which we can do the march on the 12th. And yeah, so the march in well, actually I won't talk about London because I think that there's people from all over here. So I'll leave it there for the moment, and then yeah, if there's any questions, I'm just going to post the website and the and my email address in the chat.
Thanks so much for that, Claire. So if anyone has any questions for Claire about the 12th, please put them in the chat or raise an electronic hand. It's going to be the easiest way for me to see if you have a question. So I'll just give everyone a couple of minutes to think about any questions they might have. And either write them in the chat or raise an electronic hand. I'm wondering, does everyone know how to contact their local climate justice coalition? I'd be interested to know who, like, if you guys are in touch with yours, if you've organised anything as a local group with yours. So I can see Peter has. Ned?
Just in case anybody's interested, XR Deep Water are running the same action that they did last year for COP, which is called the Alarm. So we've got a ready-made action pack if you want something that you want to do with your local groups. I will pop the information into chat, which has got the link to the action pack in it. And then you can just click on that, and if you want to do that action on the 12th.
Yeah, thanks, Ned. That's a really good idea. I'd also really encourage everyone, if you haven't already, and I'm sure lots of you have, but to reach out to your local climate justice coalition group if you are in a local group, or even if you're not, to contact your local group, and as a local group get in touch and get involved in that organising. It's a really great opportunity to build relationships, and as Claire mentioned, there's such a range of groups participating in the marches, and they are like dispersed over the country, so it's not a requirement hopefully for people to travel too far to attend. But yeah, it's a really great opportunity for solidarity across movements, and as well as solidarity with the global majority and the Egyptian activists who can't protest as well. Claire, what's the best way for people to find their local coalition if they haven't managed to already?
Yeah, so I just put in the chat the website, and on there you can see the list of all of the protests. But like I said, if you've got any problems finding it or anything, just feel free to send me over an email.
Thanks, Claire. And Denise has a question.
Yeah, it's in relation to local organising, really, not just about the 12th. I am conscious that we do need to start building our links at a local level. I wear a couple of hats because I'm not just in XR, I do stuff in my local community as well. And I'm really, really conscious that much as I kind of try and get contacts out of the likes of the, well, in Wales, it's the Welsh Council for Voluntary Associations, I think, and it's something else in England. I find it really difficult to kind of pull together contact details for organizations at a local level with, contact emails, contact telephone numbers and stuff like that. And I will reach out to the local climate justice group. I'll do that, but I'm just wondering, does climate justice have a kind of policy or anything in terms of sharing information about local groups so that we can each network where we are as well as nationally?
Thanks, Denise. That's a great question. Claire, do you want to answer that?
So in terms of connecting, like obviously the only group that we can put you in contact with is the Climate Justice Coalition local group. But if it's a kind of strong group, they should be in contact with all of the groups locally. But that is something that basically, because this is the beginning of the Climate Justice Coalition, what we're going to be doing is getting local groups to basically like map out everybody in their area, not just climate groups, but racial justice groups, faith groups, trade unions. So I think the best place to start is just by getting in contact with that local group and just seeing where they're at in terms of that broader connection. I don't know if that answers your question or if that was what you were asking.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. I will reach out, but I've already started a spreadsheet of my local area as well. So it'd be good to sort of share the workload on that, because it is a big admin task.
Yeah, definitely. And we're really going to be encouraging groups to be doing that after the 12th. So it'd be really great to coordinate. Where are you, Denise?
Well, I'm actually situated in Philly. That's where I live, but I work with the Newport local group of XR. But in all honesty, the way the valleys are, we're quite a close-knit community, and you see a lot of faces across the different boroughs. So I'll be working around a few boroughs, I should imagine, in South Wales, wearing another hat anyway.
Denise, I'm really glad to hear you talking about like reaching out to other groups in this way. And then Claire and I have been talking a little bit about this kind of community organising, and as Claire mentioned, this kind of mapping out of different groups in your area, not just climate groups, but churches and things like that. And I've recently written guidance for local groups on how to do that and how to do this kind of this kind of mapping exercise and how to organize a kind of a big outreach effort in your local group. And that came out of conversations that Claire and I had. So like I've put my email address, I've direct messaged you my email address. So if you'd like to get in touch with me about the work you're doing, I'd be really interested to hear about it. And I can send you the document I've put together as well. Because I think there's loads of scope for the Climate Justice Coalition and XR local groups to work together on this community organising and outreach and getting united. I mean, we all know that like time, is really running out, and there's, we really do all need to unite and get together and bring our communities with us. So like that's definitely the lines we're thinking along in XR, like beyond the 12th. And I'd be happy to discuss it more with you if you're invested, and for anyone else. Frances has a question. Frances Connolly.
Thank you. Just a quick thing of information really about building local contacts. I'm not sure what the situation is in Wales, but I know that in England, many boroughs have something like a council for voluntary service or something similar named. Sometimes it'd be called voluntary action, and their job is to coordinate and do newsletters and things for all the local community groups and charities and voluntary sector. Sometimes they'll have faith groups as well. So a quick way of getting to a lot of groups that aren't the normal ones is just to contact your local contact for the voluntary action. Thank you.
That's really helpful, Frances. Thank you for sharing that. Do you want to say again names so that everyone can take a moment to write it down if they want to?
Unfortunately, they have different names for different boroughs, but if you Google your borough or boroughs and then put Council for Voluntary Service or volunteering community groups and then put the name of your area, it should come up. Not every borough will have one, but a lot will.
That's really helpful. Thank you, Francis. That's really helpful to me as well. Denise, you wanted to come back on something?
Yeah, in Wales, it's the WCVA, so Welsh Council for Voluntary Associations, I think. I did actually contact them about a week ago by email. I think I'm just going to have to chase them up by phone though, because I've not heard anything yet.
Yeah, thanks, Denise. So if anyone else has any questions, please put your hand up. And then what we were planning to do is to break out into groups and according to location, so we can speak to other rebels in our local, like roughly where we are, and discuss the question of like, how can we build towards the 12th, and how can we work together in collaboration with other groups and with the Climate Justice Coalition going forward after the 12th. And I've got a harvest document for that, so if you're willing to take some notes. So we'll do that in a minute. I've got Les has a question. Ned, if I ask everyone to change their name to their area they're from, would that make it, what was the best way to do the breakout groups, do you think?
If you want to divide them into regions and nations, I can create breakout rooms called the regions and nations, and then people can choose the room that they go into. Is that how you want to divide the areas?
Yeah, that sounds like a really good idea. Thank you. So we have a question in the meantime. So Les has a question.
Yes, well, it's more information. It's one means to work together among the various groups. This came up at the last meeting of XR London. We had a working group, or ideas for a working group on intervening in local authorities. I mean, as one rationale, the protests from XR and other groups has led many local authorities to declare a climate emergency, but this often means they use it to greenwash their high carbon policies of any kinds. So there needs to be some follow-up to hold local authorities accountable for those high carbon policies and put pressure on them to substitute low carbon socially just policies. So we have a substantial text with ideas for how such a working group would focus its discussion and bring people together. I'm just wondering where that document should go. And it also needs a coordinator, someone who'd be willing to convene online meetings. So this could be discussed in the breakout groups, but also we need a way for this to be known.
Les, if I send you my email address again and you can email me about
Yes, yeah, I got that in the
does
chat.
That work?
Yeah, I got your email address in the chat, but I just want everyone to know because this could be relevant to the breakout groups.
Yeah, thank you. And so we've got some questions in the chat as well. So Salamander is concerned that another might make much of a difference. I don't know, Claire, do you want to come back on?
Sorry, somebody was just speaking to me.
Out?
No, sorry. Somebody was just speaking to me in the chat, so I was just replying. So I didn't catch that.
Yeah, so Salamander in the chat has asked, they say they don't know, they're not convinced another march is going to make much of a difference. So I was wondering if you wanted to come back on that. I can come back on that.
Yeah, I guess, I mean, this is a bigger kind of deeper philosophical conversation that I am grappling with in terms of just going on another march is not going to be the difference. But what we use that march for, like, that is going to be the difference. So I guess it's about thinking about what are the reactions that we want because of this march, because I think often we can feel demotivated if we think that going on a march is going to suddenly get Rishi Sunak to wake up tomorrow and decide that he's a climate champion. And so I think it's about being really clear about what we're trying to do. So the first thing, like I said, was about shining a light on human rights in Egypt. Now, there's already been a lot of media about this, so maybe it's like this march can kind of build that media. And one of the, I don't know if you saw that Allah, who is a political prisoner in Egypt, is on hunger strike, and he is on the verge of dying, basically, and his sister will be speaking at that march, and she'll have a call to action. So if nothing else, there'll be a moment for a call to action on human rights in Egypt. Then there's the kind of internal stuff, like how do we use this march to kind of reinvigorate people, rebuild excitement and engagement. So I think it's like being really intentional about, like, these marches aren't a kind of silver bullet to solve the climate crisis, but it is a way to get our people kind of excited and motivated again. And then I also think it's about the relationships that are built through the process. And obviously it's a bit different if you're just arriving on the day, but the kind of organizing team and people who've been working on this for a while are from all different groups. And so the relationships that are built in the kind of run-up and on the day, but more in the run-up, will be really essential to this kind of continuing of building power and building momentum. And then I guess it's, you know, just also showing that we're not going anywhere, because I think a lot of momentum was lost due to COVID. So I think it's about building some of that back up. And then it's like, you know, how do we get good press on this ultimately? So that people who weren't on the march know about the march. But yeah, I think that's a really valid question. And actually, we're going to be having an evaluation of the protest, because we don't just want it to be this thing that happens and then that's the end of it. Because I think that you're right. Like, I don't know if that's going to have a real impact, but we want to have an evaluation afterwards. And I think that that'd be a really key moment to reflect on, like, you know, that question about, like, how valuable is it and what do you need to be doing around protesting to make it powerful, and not just relying on a march every year or whatever. So I think it's a longer kind of really complicated thing that I'm personally grappling with, and I think that's really why we want to think about some of this deeper local organizing with these kind of big moments of showing power.
Thank you, Claire. That was great. And I think it's a good segue into the breakout groups, because the question that we're asking you to discuss is how we can build towards the 12th, but then build beyond that together. And these sorts of questions, you know, will be what you can discuss in the breakout groups as well. So Ned, are you ready with the breakout groups? Before you go, I'm just going to put the harvest doc in the chat. So it has the question on, and then if you could choose someone to make notes on the harvest doc, that would be really helpful. It'd be really helpful if you do use this doc, because we really want to capture your ideas and take them away and actually use them. And we will do that. So please don't, you know, waste your great points and great discussions by not note taking them in the harvest doc. So they're all in the chat now. Hi everyone, welcome back. Do we have everyone back now, Ned? Yeah, that's great. So we have 10 minutes left. Does anyone want to feed back some of what you discussed in your breakout groups? Just, yeah, if you raise an electronic hand, I can call on you. Do we have anyone from London who would be willing to feed back? That was quite a big group, maybe to start off with.
Okay, yeah, I was doing the notes for London. We got more details on what's happening in London, which helps. So there's going to be a march involved. There's banners being made literally just beforehand. We've got people organizing Samba. We also talked about COP27 in Egypt. basically building international links. And will there be any webinars during the conference, just like there were in COP26? So there's an open question out to you. We talked about organisation within the march on the 21st, so sorry, 12th, about stewarding, whether different groups would have their own stewards, whether it would be one block, everyone's stewarding together. And I think there's more going to be discussed on that before the day. And yes, a final question of which was answered, of getting groups together locally as well as regionally. And so Claire was able to get a quick yes in there, and then everything stopped. So that's it from London.
Brilliant, thanks Gordon, that's really helpful. I think, where else did we have people? Midlands, does anyone want to feedback from the Midlands? Got any Midlands people who want to feedback?
There were only 3 of us in the Midlands group, and we were really wanting to know what was happening rather than having great ideas on what to do. But one of our concerns is that people are having difficulty getting on with groups that aren't XR, and how do we persuade people that, you know, they've got to be more tolerant and get on better, and not insist that everything is done the way XR does it.
Thanks, Hilary, that sounds really challenging. Yeah, if there's any way that I can support with that from XR relationships, then yeah, let me know. We are going to be doing relationship building training coming up very soon as part of 3.5's like packages of trainings, so look out for that, and maybe try and bring some of these people along with you to them, because that does sound really difficult and unhelpful. Francesca?
I was just going to say, I was listening. I'm quite new to this, but I did take part in one of the camps once doing yoga for kids. And I'm linked in here as being London and Devon, but this has made me make up my mind. I'm going to turn into Devon because I was on my parish council there, and I'm going to go back on my parish council, and I'm going to see what I can do from there.
Thanks for that, Francesca. Yeah, thanks for letting us know. That's great that it's meeting as well. So my mind is going blank. Ned, do you remember where else we had some quite big groups of people?
The North had 3, East of England had 3, South East had 3, South West had 3.
Anyone from any of those groups want to feedback? Anything discussed?
Yeah, hi, I'll cover the North. We didn't discuss the 12th just because the makeup of our group didn't really work for that. But I'm just, if it's useful, I'll feedback what we talked about in terms of local building, if you like, and networking. So basically one of the 3 was a teacher at an FE college teaching students with learning difficulties. And I'm aware that that might be a gap in XR. So we talked about that. And so they're not taught anything about the environment, and the teacher is using the maths, English and sort of social community skills curriculum to bring in environmental issues. And so I shared an experience from Wales, where a lot of the local schools, they have a green flag scheme where they can apply for funding to have sort of raised beds in the school grounds so they can grow their own veg and stuff for the canteen. But also there's a couple of projects, one that's close to me, which is specifically for people with learning difficulties, to integrate them into the wider community and teach them about the environment, where they actually grow food on a specific project and do things like hanging baskets and whatnot and sell them on to local businesses. And also they engage with the public. So it's kind of like it's teaching them social skills as well as about the environment. So I just fed back about that. another member of the group. They didn't have anybody in their local area, so did a bit of signposting in terms of the Rebel Toolkit and the Rebel Academy, basically to skill new people up and give them the tools to find out how to find others and feel confident doing that. Also, there was an organisation I never heard of called Energy Heroes. And Energy Heroes talk to schools about saving energy, money and environmental conservation. This is a useful organisation, again, if you might be working with people with learning difficulties. I also signposted Groundwork and BTCV as partners. So very local focus, but you never know where these things can lead as well, do you? So.
Thanks for that, Denise. I think very local focus is really powerful, actually. And yeah, great to hear your feedback. Thank you so much. Do we have anyone else who would like to feedback to their group if that hasn't gone yet? Maybe just speak or raise an electronic hand.
I will for the South East group. We didn't talk much about the 12th either. I think general feeling that for us to actually drive anything, to set anything up in 10 days is really quite a big ask at the moment if there isn't a nearby march happening. But we did talk about or I talked mostly about what sort of things, what sort of activities, general activities are going on really within XR Brighton. One of the things we did talk about was how valuable it is to have a practical sort of project, hands-on type project going on. So one of the things that we've had a lot of success bringing in different unexpected people actually is regeneration. We're regenerating some chalk grassland, and we just have a weekly session where we're working on the land with that, and find that it's brilliant for regen for rebels who've been involved in actions, but it's also just a really gentle introduction for people who are feeling quite anxious about getting involved in actions, and they kind of want something to focus on. So it's quite a nice way of just chatting with people about how they can get involved and help them to kind of find which direction their heart's leading them in. So yeah, so I guess just supporting that idea of having practical projects that locally that draw in other groups and people from other groups, because people don't think of XR as being practical. So it's yeah, that's me.
Thank you, Kristin. That's really helpful as well. And yeah, from a relationships perspective, XR UK relationships perspective, I'm really heartened and happy to hear how much willingness there is to engage with this kind of alliance building locally in this meeting. I think it's really powerful. Anyone else want to feedback? No? Claire, do you want to say anything before we close the meeting? Thank you so much for joining us. It really appreciated you taking this time to speak to us about the Climate Justice Coalition work.
No, just excited to work together and hopefully see some of you on the 12th.
Great, thanks so much for joining, everyone. Thanks a lot.
Oh, Gordon's got their hand up, Miranda.
Gordon?
You're on mute. Gordon,
you're on mute, Gordon.
How about that? Thank you.
Yeah.
Mainly to you, Claire, because you're the national coordinator for the coalition. What do other people think of XR?
I can't speak for everybody, but I mean, my overwhelming feeling has been that people are willing to work together. I haven't heard that much, but maybe I'm not deep enough into it to know what the tensions are. But for the most part, yeah, I don't know, maybe I'll be able to answer that question more as they go on, but I think for the most part people just want to work together.
Thanks, Claire. Yeah, it's a great question, Gordon, and that's really
Anne Boston, sorry, can you hear me? I went for the first time to the XR meeting outside number 10 about a fortnight ago, about 2 weeks ago, and I spoke to several people, and I was so impressed as an outsider by the people that I met that's why I want to join in. So I'm possibly a sample of an outsider who thought they were great. So.
Oh, thank you for sharing that, Anne. It's so nice to hear that. You know, you so often just hear negative things, and really, but that's lovely to hear. So yeah, thank you so much to Claire for joining us and sharing your knowledge and skills. Thank you so much to Ned for doing the tech, and thank you everyone who joined. Really enjoyed the meeting. I think it's been really positive. So hope you all have a lovely evening.
Bye.